2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along on the day that Leicester City announced, as they called it, an evolved senior leadership structure. Oh, God, I should have practiced that one, shouldn't I? And I tell you what, it feels like it's a school reunion because welcome along Kate, welcome along Craig, neither of which I have seen for about, well, it seems like 6 months. Kate's got lots of white bits. She went all the way around Argentina, but unlike the three guys that were over there, she didn't get her bus attacked by stones and needed a police escort out the country. At least I think you didn't, Kate.
No, we didn't. We were all right. We were just about okay.
Brilliant. Craig, we just haven't seen each other. We've had midweek games.
Yeah, you got that restraining order out on me for a month, and now we'll try and be a bit more friendly. Although I think that'll last about 5 minutes.
Indeed. I have to ask, what does DA stand for?
Devil's Advocate.
Ah, right. In other words, you're an FS. Fence sitter.
Not at all. No.
Well,
not at all. I find that offensive, Chris.
Do you? Offensive. Yeah. I didn't know whether that was on purpose or we didn't mean that. We're going to be joined by Steve in probably about 5-7 minutes or so. He's off doing adult stuff with the Foxes Trust, so he will join us. Kate's back from having a wee, and hope you made it in time.
Yes.
Nate is in. Hi, Nate. How you doing? Craig is with us as well, as is Ronald and Clibbo and Michael as well. We're going to go into this in more detail with the individual appointments because there's some very, should we call it, interesting things have happened in there. But I've called it sort of expectation versus reality. Kate, we kind of knew this was coming. I mean, it's all been happening while you've been away. Don't ever go back. We sack a manager. We take 3 weeks to find another one, and you're still not back.
Get a points deduction.
And this, I mean, you come back for a rest. But what were your thoughts when you first saw this morning? Because, I mean, I hadn't realised this was going to happen today. And, of course, we've got a completely other show planned. And then this came up.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either. I mean, it's just a random thing to happen on a Tuesday, isn't it? These sort of things you would think would happen on a Monday or a Friday or whatever. But yeah, they always catch you off guard, don't they, Leicester? I always feel like the announcements are never quite when you expect them to be. But I'm a bit indifferent to it, if I'm absolutely honest, because I don't know how to run a football club. So I just think we'll just have to see what's happening. We've got a new face in there, which was much needed, which I think was probably one of the most important positions that needed filling was the sporting director role. And we've got a new face in there, young man as well, not someone that's arguably maybe a bit past it. we've got someone new in, and then we've promoted from
When you
within.
say that.
Pardon?
Don't look at Craig when you say that.
I'm actually looking at you, Chris, but anyway.
Oh, that's all right then. That's all right.
And then promoted from within, which my initial reaction was honestly, oh my God, the fans are going to go nuts. It wasn't about whether it was the right decision. I just thought, let's not that spill into the stands on Saturday against Ipswich. Like that was one of my initial concerns, because people just want Rudkin out, and that's not happened, and it was never going to happen. I think that became quite clear a few months ago. So I'm a bit indifferent to it, and I'm excited to see what this sporting director has to offer, really, and see what happens.
Craig, they do say, don't they, if you're going to release news, release it on a busy news day, because it gets lost in the middle of everything else. Not a particularly busy news day at all, but maybe midweek, it's early in the week, they're going to get missed. I didn't see it until a couple of hours after it came out, although it's just been updated apparently. But even Sky have come out with a video about it and saying the fans aren't going to be happy about John Rudkin.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that's the one thing was guaranteed. The expectation that he would get sacked, I don't know. I think you're foolish if you thought that was going to happen, to be honest. It was never going to happen. People think just because they're moving him upstairs, he's still going to have the same level of control, and even more so, over things that are going on. So they're just bringing in a director of football as a puppet who's left Manchester City or the City group to come here and just be a puppet of John Rudkin. That's how the criticism is being shaped at the moment, which I find, again, ridiculous. But what you've got is this overriding narrative of John Rudkin and Top are to blame for everything. At the end of the day, Top and the people at King Power have to take full responsibility for what's gone on. But I don't think you can say that, a football club, a multi-million pound business, leaves all the decisions to one person. Top came out and said there was a committee of 4 people who oversaw all transfers, but Rudkin's the easy target, and then you fall into that thing of where do you draw the line between backing a manager or just going against your manager, and all of this comes down to the reign of Brendan Rodgers in my eyes. That's where things started to slip. That's where players were bought in who didn't meet expectations, and that's where big contracts were being signed, all at the behest of a manager who we allowed to get too big for his boots. But then what do? You either back a manager or you don't back a manager, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And I think that's where we are. Transfers work out. We've got a long list. I've got a long list of transfers that have happened under John Rudkin. A lot of them have been really good. And we've got good money for players that we've sold, but they are insignificant against the ones that are just picked up, that are the bad ones and the bad contracts that have been handed out. And I'm not here as a John Rudkin apologist. I'm here as there's a balance to be found amongst culpability for what's gone on.
I mean, you both know my opinion changes depending on what everybody else's is, because I have to sort of be like you say there, DA, devil's advocate. But I mean, Kate, for a long time I was defending John Rudkin. And one of the things I used to say was, that if the women's toilets in the away end got blocked, it would be John Rudkin's fault. He seemed to be in charge of whatever was going wrong at the time. And as Craig said, was an easy target.
Yeah, I agree. And I think 15 years in that position, and, the last 4 or so have been less than ideal, less than average, and mistakes have been made. But I do agree that it's a collective, and Top has said that on a couple of occasions now. And, no one forgets that the previous 10 years happened, but it does seem to be worth diddly squat for whatever reason, and I get frustrated at that. Look, I'm as unhappy as anybody else. I think maybe the time has come where people just become stale in jobs. We see that with players, we see that with managers. You know, it was working under Brendan for so long until it wasn't. People do just become stale, they become stagnant, their ideas are no longer fresh. Like Jose revolutionised the game, Pep revolutionised the game in this country, and that will start to age if it's not doing already. You know, people are starting to get bored. Jose Mourinho's style of play is no longer fashionable. Like, everything evolves and everything has its place in history, and it becomes history when it becomes stale. And John's perhaps found himself in that position. But what I would say is that a lot of Leicester fans wanted him out of that job, and he is out of that job. So
into a better job, which is
but also we don't know if it's better, worse, different, or the same. We don't know, and that's what I get frustrated about. There's so many fans out there who don't admit that they don't know. Leicester City is an iceberg. I don't like it. I wish I knew more, but we actually don't know 90% of what's going on, whose job is what, and whatever. So that's why I just don't comment too much, because my biggest concern is 3 points at Ipswich at the weekend. That's my biggest concern in my head for Leicester City right now, because this season is not anything to do with John Rudkin. This season is about 11 men on that pitch who have been so bad, so unbelievably bad, that we are perhaps going down to League One. And that's, this season alone is not John Rudkin. It's poor performing players.
Yeah. As a good point that Clibo's just come in, with saying the problem is Rudkin, apart from getting top 10 Premier, getting a top 10 Premier League, will never be able to get the majority back on side.
I think there's an important comma in there.
Yeah, the problem is that Rudkin, apart from getting the top 10 Premier League, will never be able to get the majority back on side.
He's not saying the problem is Rudkin.
No, you're quite right. I should have gone to Specsavers.
I do. And an example is that the cancel culture that we're in, like, if anything goes wrong, it's just sack them, get rid of them, they're done, you know. And 30-year serving, I think I read today, it's his 30-year service this year. They do not come by very often. That guy's as loyal as you can get. And he knows that club inside out. Nobody else will know Leicester City ever again like he knows Leicester City. And there just needs to be some element of that. I can imagine he'll retire in a couple of years as well, you know. But also what I was going to say was, people used to kind of mention Susan Whelan in the same ilk, that frustration, she submitted the accounts late or whatever. And then nothing's really said about that anymore. Now she's gone.
I made exactly the same note. It's like she's got off and she's seen as this shining beacon now and is absolved of all blame because she's no longer at the club. It's a collective. It's a collective success and it's a collective failure.
I mean, it's very interesting.
Oh yeah.
We're going to come to a point later where everybody's saying that this new guy is a lackey. It was one of the words I used and we'll use later of John Rudkin, but he isn't, because neither of them are over the other one. They both report to top on the board.
Again, do you really think someone's leaving that job at the City Group?
Yes,
the richest, biggest football corporation in the world, to just come here and be John Rudkin's lackey? I mean,
No. I'm agreeing with you. So that's the point.
No, I know. I'm just saying that other people who think that, and this is that. It's that confirmation bias, isn't it? You will alter the story to fit whatever your already biased position is.
Yes.
Yeah. The fact that
I mean, as I say, I get fed up with the number of times I used to defend John Rudkin when it came to transfers, because apparently he went out, he scouted players, he looked for players, he decided who we were going to have, he signed them, he decided on the contract they were going to get, he decided how long the contract was. But it's very true.
I'm not defending John Rudkin.
No.
Me neither. No.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know. And it's a collective. 15 years ago, Leicester City fans weren't commenting on the board and positions and directors and CEOs. I don't bloody know. It was brand new information in this last year or so that all of our fans are either current or former chief execs, finance directors or sporting directors. Who knew?
We're very lucky in that
We're
respect.
very lucky.
We're no different. Let's be honest with you. We're no different to any other club. And if you look up the word football fan in the Oxford English Dictionary, it does actually say fickle next to it. You know, you
If we
have
found
to.
out that we were getting Man United sporting director in, there would be a lot more positivity about it. Whereas Man United are in the most amount of debt they have ever been in their history.
Yeah. I mean, look, a point that Kate made there, Craig, which I've written down here because I'm very impressed with it, was that you do get stale in the job. Now, I know you're in sales as well, aren't you? And
Marketing. That's why I just bullshit. Yeah.
is it basically? Well, I used to always be in sales, which was even bigger bullshit. And yes, you know, in
What's your
advertising,
excuse, Kate?
I work in finance, so same kind of thing.
yeah. But no, I mean, I used to sell advertising space, and yeah, I mean, I bullshitted. Come on, that's what salespeople do. But it is true, you do get stale. And I can remember, once when I was at a job in Burnley, I had hit my target for 12 months running for every single month. They had a bronze, silver, and gold award, and the gold was for 12. At the end of that 12 months, I sat down and I thought, what have I got to prove? What have I got to do now? And I went and moved to a different department. Came back with my legs between my legs 3 months later because I wasn't enjoying it. But you do get stale, and I think as fans, we get stale seeing the same people in the same position. And I was talking to my mate the other day. Believe it or not, I've got one, and this is the owners that took us just after League One, or thereabouts, to winning the second tier. Okay, we had a bit of a trouble with money then as well. To, probably the best decade this club has ever seen. And we're now almost back to where we were, if you like, because you remember those, those seasons before we actually got relegated to League One. And it's almost like, well, we're not big enough to compete with the big boys, or whatever you want to count them as, in the Premier League. Bournemouth are enjoying it at the moment. Villa are, but look at Leeds, how much they did. Look at Blackburn Rovers when they won it, and look at where they are now.
Yeah, I'm going to say and people say that this is Top's inheritance, and he's inherited this from Vishai, and he's not the man his father is. Clearly not. His father had decades of experience in business. Top hasn't had that. Sadly, he's learning on the job, and he's learning how tough it is, and he needs to lean on people around him. But let's not forget that the guy who is getting all the vitriol, John Rudkin, was appointed by Vishai.
And also, which I think often gets forgotten, and it's a major play here for loads of different reasons, is Vishai didn't live through COVID. And it would have been very interesting to see how he would cope running a duty-free with closed airports for the best part of 2 years. So I do think that comes into it as well. Not only did you have the unexpected tragic death of a billionaire owner of such a massive company, plus Leicester City, you then had an unprecedented pandemic that closed the world effectively, and unfortunately they depended heavily on air travel for their business. So there's lots of unprecedented things that happen, and we are where we are. It's time to look forward, and we've made the changes. I think Top even alluded to the fact that John Rudkin was moving upstairs anyway, so I'm not really sure why there's such a hoo-ha today.
Yeah, I was looking at how the COVID had affected King Power today. I was just reminding myself of the figures or whatever, and to be honest, nearly all other owners faced with the difficulties that their own company was going through would have dumped the club and walked away, not continued to bankroll it. So I think there's a hell of a lot of disrespect about where they took this club, and now we're having some tough times, and they have to take the responsibility for that as well. But hopefully they've tried to at least take the steps forward to change things, and time will tell. You know.
And I feel good now because all my children are here.
I'm going to cover the banner that's behind me.
Yes.
Ignore that. Please ignore that. That's not there. Here comes the wrecking ball.
Well, indeed. Look, I mean, I've just been, while you were off doing adult stuff, I was just talking to Kate. That sounded wrong. Fox's Trust stuff. I was talking to Kate and Craig. Before we get into it, the meat of the announcement today, I was asking them. So I'll ask you the same question. Your first thoughts on the news as it stands, and then we'll go into it in a bit more detail.
So I've sort of mellowed a little bit since earlier on. I've just listened to the last sort of 5 or so minutes of Kate and Craig talking there. I do think it's important to point out that we asked for changes and changes have been made. I don't think you can really criticize the appointment of the CEO who's stepped up. He's been at the club for 15 years and he's stepped up into the role because we don't know what he did at the football club before taking over. I know he was the director.
You have mellowed, haven't you, from earlier?
But I'll get there. Don't worry. He's a financial director at the time. So honestly, if you ask me, I wouldn't know what the hell that job entails. You know, I won't claim to be a professional, like an experienced person on that sort of thing. But the technical director, it was coming. The only thing I would be critical with is the fact that they're still having to talk to John Rudkin to make decisions, I would say. So if the technical director wants to sign a player, does he have to get approval from John first or Top first, or what's the situation
well,
there?
We will go into that in a bit more detail.
I've mellowed. I've thought about it. As again, I'm always reactionary, as everybody knows that I'm very reactionary on certain things. And then when I've had time to think about it, I calm down a little bit. But my overall opinion is that, with these new appointments, you've probably got to give them a bit of time to find out what's going to come.
I mean, let's be honest with you, Kate and Craig, reactionary. If you're in that WhatsApp group earlier, you're still covering your ears. I think. I mean,
it's Kate. It's on Sunday. I said something on Sunday, and I saw Kate's face drop, and I was like, "It's that face." Whenever I'm always picturing that face when I'm saying something. I'm like, "Okay, Kate would not approve."
Did not know I have such a tell.
All I'm saying is I'm wearing a cricket ball.
Like this now.
Safety.
Right.
Let's have a look what they've come out and said then. I will read it out because obviously it is a bit small maybe on some of your screens. But Leicester City today announced an evolved senior leadership structure, quite a fancy name, designed to provide clarity and responsibility. Strengthen governance and support our long-term development both on and off the pitch. The new structure includes defined executive leadership for our football and business operations, recognising the expertise, pace and the prioritisation required in each area, aligned behind a single strategic vision to re-establish Leicester City as a sustainable, aspirational Premier League football club. So re-established, I think they're the kind of accepting, obviously we're not accepting, they've got to accept we're not in the Premier League anymore. But is that, do you think, Kate, an admission of what has gone wrong?
No, I don't think so. I think it's an admission that something had to change. And to say that we've re-established ourselves as sustainable would infer that they currently see us or our situation as unsustainable, which they would be right with. And we want to be back in the Premier League. The word pace was my most interesting word there, because we've spoken at length the amount of times it's taken to replace managers each time. So is that a nod towards that kind of thing? Is it a nod towards getting players in transfer windows when time is short? So everything else is just kind of what you'd expect to hear from that kind of announcement, really. But what I will say is, because it's a private company and a lot of it's not in the public domain, to provide clarity of responsibility doesn't mean clarity to fans, and it won't do. It just means clarity of responsibility for those that work for the club. They know who to go to for whatever thing they need doing. So that's not to provide clarity to us, because it's a closed shop in that regard.
Steve, I want to just jump, sorry Craig, I will come back to you. I just want to jump to your poster behind there saying King Power Out. But it's not. I don't think it's King Power that actually own us anymore, is it?
I think it is. If you look, I know on Company's House, it is Top and whoever else is in the family, but I'm pretty sure King Power is in there as well. I looked a couple of months ago, and
family. I thought it was just the family.
I thought it was just the family now. Yes.
It's a very strange thing, is it? Because I think a lot of fans, you can combine all of the family and say they're part of King Power, because I think they all work for King Power in some aspect, or has worked for King Power in some aspect. So it's probably easier to say King Power than Top, or I mean, also the banner would have to be quite large if you write out the last name out, wouldn't you? Let's be honest. I can't even say it. So
you know, the first challenge you come to, well, it'd have taken a long time to write the names out. I mean,
I'm a busy man, Chris. What can I say? I didn't write the banner. I just want to be clear. I didn't write this banner. This was not me.
Now it says here, people. When I'm just on the site now, and it has got. Here we go. There's 31 officers and 24 resignations. So you know.
No, just PWSC, the persons with significant control, and there's one person, and it's Top.
I haven't clicked on that button.
The button on Company's House if you want to find out true ownership.
Yeah, it says, well, it's got here, the club correspondence address. Well, it's actually got 2 persons now. It says 2 active persons with significant control. It's got Peter William Gregory Tom.
Hey?
And Thomas Richard Scott. Sorry, Greg?
No, it was. I'm assuming the Peter bit is his surname. Anyway. I mean, yeah.
I'm saying is, okay, I don't. And didn't he take it out of that because of all the trouble, and he took it into his own ownership?
I think they were probably trying to protect the club from being seized as an asset.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, ask Steve a question. I don't think Steve knows the ownership level like probably most of us do.
I don't tend to spend much like Company's House. I'm not on there that regularly to find out who owns the football club. So
you should be doing your preparation. Craig's got notes. He's done homework.
Oh, I've got notes. I mean, they're not important to the stream, but I've got notes. You guys want to know how much, what percentage you need to put into water for drinking water? Then I can tell you that, but
yes,
it's not
please.
helpful.
Yeah.
Well, if
that was my next question.
Well, if you told me, I could have done a really slide for it. Do you know what I mean? Right. We'll move on from that bit. I do think it is just Top and his mother and his siblings.
I think you've. Sorry, just on that bit. I think you've probably got as close to them acknowledging that they haven't done a very good job in the last few years because they haven't got the right people in the right jobs. I think that is as close to them accepting and acknowledging that in that statement, to be honest, that we recognise. You're basically saying recognising the expertise, pace and prioritisation required is basically saying we know we didn't have that. So hopefully that's a positive.
Have I typed in something else here? Leicester Football Club.
I did that. It's Leicester City Football Club. It's not Leicester Football Club. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Come on, Chris. Like Craig has got notes here, mate. You can't have used a website.
His football team. Don't type in Leicester Boss. You show your age.
Right, we're moving on. But I think it is just the family. So anyway, Kevin Davis has been appointed Chief Executive Officer, leading the club's business functions. John Rudkin to lead the club's football operation as Chief Football Officer. James McCarran will arrive from City Football Group in March as Sporting Director. We're now in March. Russell Jones named Commercial Director, and there will be clear executive alignment across men's and women's football. I said they've aligned it. Both teams look like they're going to get relegated. Commercial and operational functions. I don't think that was the alignment they actually probably thought of. But I mean, look, they've got these fancy titles, and everybody loves a title, don't we? How often have you got promoted at work? Said, well, here's a bit of extra money, but we'll give you this brand new fancy title. I mean, Craig, you come in on this one. I mean, what is a sporting director or chief football officer? I mean, they've just taken away the director of football, so that can't be used against him, I would think.
Yeah, but I think the director of football, if you look at the job description that he's been given, that's essentially what Rudkin was doing. But I think the new guy will have more scope to his position. I think that there was no way that Top was going to get rid of John, so they've almost created a position for him, which gives him other stuff to get involved in, so he is going to be overseeing the women's side of the game, a lot of the youth stuff, everything else that goes in behind the scenes.
Good luck, women, by the way.
Sorry?
Saying good luck, women.
Yeah. But it's a much broader. A football club is massive, particularly when you've got women's groups and all the age groups down it. It's massive. The fact that we thought, one person could do all of that anyway is ridiculous. Could be overseeing it. And if they are overseeing it, there's no way they could give enough time and effort and expertise to doing all of that. So I think he's almost created a role for John where he can still have some say, but he's got a broader remit now that he can go off and get involved in other projects and God knows what, and allow the guy who's been working at City Group to come in and use his expertise and experience to actually run the side that is the bit that we all see, to be honest.
I mean, Kate, I've worked at a company where there was somebody that nobody particularly got on with, quite high up in the chain, and was upsetting everybody, and the big boss didn't sack her, but moved her about so she had less influence on the rest of us. You've got to look at Top and go, actually, if that's what he's done, and I think I agree with Craig, it probably is what they've done. It's a really clever move by him, isn't it?
I mean, potentially. I don't really know. I just think outside.
I'm glad you came on, Kate.
outside.
I've missed your incisive, straight to the point thoughts.
There's that face again, Kate. There's the face again.
Wind your neck in, Christopher. Yes, so outside looking in, I just think he wants somebody who he can trust. Like, he was his dad's right-hand man, and Top will have had and known John and worked with John actually for most of his adult life, if not all of it. And there's an element that John brings that kind of calmness and reassurance to him. I know outside looking in, fans don't perhaps feel like that way about him, but he is a good person to have around for Top, and it gives him some stability in whatever form. I don't know. But yeah, that's probably why he's been moved upstairs. But he's also that football officer function is usually the bridge, I think, between what James will be doing and the board. So James, in the usual setup, James will have autonomy, but there'll be certain things that he will need to present to the board, and John will do that presenting. John isn't on the board as far as I'm aware.
No, he's not. The three-man board, yeah.
But Kevin is. Kevin's now he's now company secretary. So Kevin will be, he's named on company's house. I've just seen that myself. So he's named on there. So he'll have quite a lot to say as well as the commercial director with commercial revenues as well, in terms of what money we'll have to spend. So John will kind of almost be the gatekeeper to the board, I think, and that will field everything that James is dealing with. But James will have autonomy, I would think.
The one thing I would say just on Kevin being part of the board with Top and whatever is that I feel like it's a missed opportunity for the club to bring in fresh voices on boardroom level. I mean, obviously you can't appoint normal people to the board as, give shares or whatever, but I just feel like with taking John upstairs, who's the right-hand man to Top, you bring Kevin onto the board, who's been there for 15 years as well. Seems like it might be an echo chamber, and I think we missed the opportunity to bring in new voices. I know we've got James coming in and Russell coming in as well, and I know we've got Monica who was there as well. But yeah, just feels like there was a missed chance there.
I think it was interesting.
Sorry, Craig. Look, I mean, I just want to say, Steve, I hadn't realised we'd invited Blofeld into the chat.
Oh, honestly, yeah, she
You
will not
expect
leave me
me to
alone when I'm on
talk
these
to
shows.
someone?
Yeah,
You know?
I think
there we
it
go.
was.
Look, she's back.
I think it was interesting though, because I think it was the link that you shared, Steve, in the group about the. It was the Daily Mail, I think it was. And if you read down that, they were quite. There was quite a lot of praise for Kevin.
Yes.
In his work over the past 3 years, I think, since he'd stepped up into that role, because the previous guy had gone off to Newcastle, I think. So, we talk about nobody comes in for our staff because they're no good. I mean, Newcastle had came in for our previous financial director, and they'd got a hell of a lot more money to spend than we have. But by all accounts, he's done a really good job in getting the finances back in shape and making sure that we only ended up with a 6-point deduction. So I think he's kind of earned that. I hear what you're saying, in terms of, and I would hope that there are more people that are being brought in who are not necessarily in the big name positions, but there is some other fresh blood, or they're at least, broadening their scope of influence and listening to more people and taking advice from more people.
Right, moving on, because we've got a lot to get through before we finish. I've got to ask you, Steve, as you were at the protest, you've got the banner behind you. Do you think this quells any of that at all, or is it papering over the cracks, or is it just a drop in the ocean?
I don't think so. I know there's just been a second protest announced against QPR at home, I think is the Saturday game in a couple of weeks' time. I think it's more about the fact that, they still want a change of ownership. And I think some people, you can call for that yourselves. I also think that it's more about the future of the football club. If you go back and listen to my rant yesterday on the review show, it's more about the fact that, if we get relegated to League One, it's all well and good moving the chairs in the Titanic. The Titanic is still sinking. We still could be in League One. We're still going to have people lose their jobs because we're going to have to make people redundant to keep the club running. So I think that's more of an issue now.
Yeah. Kate, let me just go then move on to Kevin. And as it says here, leading the club's business operation, Kevin Davies has been appointed to the role of Chief Executive Officer, providing executive leadership of the club's corporate affairs, ensuring strong governance, long-term financial resilience, and the operational platform required to support sustained sporting ambition. I mean, it's difficult because on one hand, you want to be saying, like Steve says, we need new blood in, new ideas. But then on the other hand, there's a lot to be said for promoting from within and continuity.
Yeah, I think so. And usually those kind of chief executive officers often are promoted from within, because you have to have such knowledge of the company that you're working for to hit the ground running. If we appointed an external, I would think there'd be a hell of a lot of ground and catch-up work to do, which could take up to a year, I would imagine, to understand Leicester City and how it works and the predicament it finds itself in, because anybody joining the club will have only seen what's in the press, whereas this guy actually knows what's under the bonnet, and he's in quite a small group of people that know that. So I'm all about recruiting from within. I'm all about recruiting from outside as well. You want the right person for the job, and for all we know, and again, this is where I admit that I don't know, unlike quite a lot of people, is that you don't know that 15 people didn't apply for the job. You don't know. And I would like to think they probably did. I've come across people in that line of industry who have considered applying. They would never tell me if they would or wouldn't apply, but they have considered it. So you don't know. You don't know.
I mean,
I applied, but they didn't want me to take the job for some reason.
They begged you, Steve.
Yeah,
I think it was probably that German picture that you put out that once.
So don't talk about that, Chris. We move on from that very quickly. That was deleted, and we're never spoken about again. Thank you very much.
I'm not going into any detail.
Tell Chris not to speak about something again, Steve.
No,
I've
I'm being
matured
very
since then.
I mean, very subtle. It was a lovely, lovely picture of the Rhine, if I say so myself. Kevin Davis says, it's an honour for me to become Leicester's Chief Executive Officer, having been born and raised in the city. I know what it means to the people and in our communities and the passion that exists among our supporters. I'm proud to be part of its leadership. I also know the responsibility that comes with the role. Recent seasons have brought significant challenges, and our focus is firmly on ensuring that the structures, processes, and leaderships are in place to support stability, sustainability, and competitive ambition across the whole club. It's amazing what you can write with AI, isn't it? I mean, I'm being facetious there, Craig, but let's face it, we have seen times where people have sort of come in as they used to be CEO at Morrison's or something like that, in North Shields, and they've come in. This guy, like you said, is a Leicester person, is a Leicester lad. He knows what the club means to people, and you can say well, yeah, he was there when all this shit was going on, sort of thing, but there's an advantage to that, and actually knowing, oh shit, this is what we were doing when that happened.
Yeah, you know what it's like if you've been at a company for any amount of time, and then some newbies come in who think they know it all, and you're sitting there thinking you don't know half of it, and you put that experience to good use. And I think the fact that he's been there overseeing this last couple of years when we've really been in the financial difficulties, and hopefully, appeal pending, that we've got out the back of that, and this guy's been at the forefront of that. As I said before, I think he's probably earned his shot at the role, and see what he can do with it. But you would hope that, as Kate was saying, there'd be no shortage of people who have been in and around football. I would imagine if you're in football, you either want to get out of it and never touch it again, or you just can't get away from football. And people who have been in similar roles would have been applying for that position. But if he's done a good job over the last couple of years, then he deserves his shot.
We've all worked at companies, Steve, where you've let people go because maybe they were turned down for a job that they were interested in within the company, so they've applied for something outside. They're suddenly on $2,000 a year more, and I'm sort of not talking football wages here, but sort of normal wages, on $2,000 a year more, and you've let them go. And then you've got to balance that out with, well, what's it going to cost you to get somebody in, train them up, get them up to speed, get the knowledge that this guy's had over, the person that's left over 5, 6, 7 years, however long he's been there. It can be the worst decision sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to hold my hands up here and thank both Kate and Craig for pointing out the fact that, yes, he has been at the football club for the number of years that he's been here, and bringing in a new CEO could take weeks or months to get up to speed with the role, and actually appointing somebody from within who's done that job for the last 3 years and has seen the financial turnover and stuff like that would probably be a positive thing. So hold my hands up. Didn't think about that, and I appreciate you guys bringing it to the table. Look, the more I think about it, the more it does make sense. He's somebody that would have seen what's happened in the past, what's happened with Susan potentially, and with Rudkin and Top, and he was there when Vishai was there, so there's a link to him there as well. So
he'll have potentially Susan's understudy.
Exactly. Yes,
she's quite the woman to work with. So
yeah. So yeah, appreciate you. Look, this is the difference between BTG and you guys, right? Look, I speak to Kate and Craig, and they're both level-headed and easy to talk to.
So what you're saying is that at BTG they've got nobody that's level-headed and talks sense.
No, Kate's there.
So what you're saying is nobody at BTG is level-headed and talks sense. I go back to that. Can I just say, Craig and Kate, if you would like, I have earmarked that particular point of the show where Steve thanks you and acknowledges you. And if a small, little bit of cash, I'm prepared to send that clip to you.
I've always been like, I say you're non-reactionary, right? But I feel like that whenever I get given information that actually, when I sit and think about it, I do take it on board, and I can be quite rational. So, honestly, you know, before, if you'd asked me 3 hours ago, I was raging, as you saw. But you know, it makes sense. It does make sense, and that's sometimes it takes a
I
little
don't
bit
want you to think that I was raging when I did these slides, but they were done a few hours ago.
I also
Don't,
don't want to.
like, don't get me wrong. I'm as disappointed with it as much as anybody else how it's gone, and I think this change in structure, whilst good, is still flipping loads too late. Like, it should have been done a long while ago, and it should have been revisited at the start of a potential spiral rather than maybe near the bottom of the spiral. But we are where we are. We can't change the past.
I think we're all Leicester fans at the end of it, and we all want the best for the club, you know, whatever it is, and that's it. We're bound to see things slightly differently, but it's good that they've recognised this change required and they've actually done something. You know, we all hope it's a success.
That's the thing.
You know, doing nothing would have just been criminal.
Yeah, I mean, I know those two clubs that I, called out earlier, Leeds and Blackburn, who were basically mirroring our story. They both won the First Division title, whether you want to call that the First Division or the Premier League. They both dropped off, the cliff, and it's taken them ages to get back again. But at least our guys here, whether you love them or hate them, and whether you can argue that it's come too late, etc., but at least it's come. And you have to give it, as Kate said earlier, you have to be level-headed as she is. She said, that you have to give these things a chance, and it doesn't work out, but at least they're doing something. But we're going to move on to everybody's favourite director of football next, and his new role. Now, I'm not saying here that John is, towering to,
AI has gone too far, Chris. You need to rein it in, mate. Honestly.
You want to see what it said on that scroll before I had it changed. And the things I had to ask to be, I can't do that. No, you can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. But yeah, football friends, as we say. Right, he is now, obviously he has gone from director of football to the amazing position of chief football officer. Now, what?
Doesn't even look like John.
The graphics, great. The graphics.
Leading the. Let's get back on track now. Come on. Leading the club's football operation, John Rudkin has been appointed to the role of chief football officer, providing executive leadership of all football matters, ensuring long-term sporting alignment, strategic squad development, and the high-performance environment required to deliver sustained competitive success. Craig, I mean, it is. I just think this is
you first after that babble.
Same.
I'm thinking who's likely to cause me less hassle here. And
I'm offended.
These are quotes now. This is nothing that I've said. The image is all right, but the actual text is quotes. It does, and I said this earlier, just spoke to me that in a way, Top has played a blinder. Look, the fact that this has come out 2 days or 3 days after people stood outside the KP chanting, "We want Rudkin out," which I'm sure, Top heard and what have you. But by saying, to somebody like, without admitting to them that, you're causing me a bit of problem here, give them a new job with a fancy title and a couple of different responsibilities and let them think they're moving up the ladder and they move out of the line of fire. I just think it is a really good move.
I mean, there's a famous phrase about everybody is promoted to the level of their own incompetence, which you just keep moving them up and moving
Steve's
them up.
running the show next week, by the way.
You just keep moving them up and pushing them aside and appointing people who have got the real power. I mean, I can only talk for companies that I've been at, and in reality, the person at the top is just there overseeing things. They don't wield a lot of power. They lose touch. They don't have the expertise because they're not in it day to day. So to think that John Rookin will still hold some power over the director of football or whatever Scott McCarron's job title is. I think is wrong. I think he's there and he will be overviewing and he'll be thinking, he'll be looking at the figures, he'll be looking at the players coming in, and I've heard little bits and pieces that they're going to try and get back to what made us successful before. So it will be on looking at players who have got a resale value. You know, when you look at some of those moves that we did before, the likes of Fofana, Harry Maguire, even, you know, we buying them for what, 13 mil or whatever and selling for 80. This is what set us up in good stead to such a point that others followed. So Brighton, Bournemouth, those things that people are now saying, well, look, they're doing it. Yeah, wait till they have their little blips and see how they get away with it as well.
I said this the other day.
Or change ownership.
Pardon?
Or change ownership.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's a realization, hopefully there's a realization of what got us to the point where we had success, and they try and replicate that rather than chasing this dream that we're going to be a permanent top six side. That's unrealistic. That shouldn't be the aim. That's a nice to have now and again every other season or six or whatever it is. The wording that they're using about being a sustainable Premier League side, buying potential, selling at profit and doing that, that's all encouraging for me. And hopefully they're bringing in the right guy from the City Group who can make that part happen. Yes, he'll be reporting into John, but I can't imagine that John's going to have that much control over the day-to-day of that.
Steve, taking on what Craig said there, can you still do that in today's market? I mean, the market that was 10 years ago, and like you said, excellent point, Craig, you know, we were the team that everybody followed. Everybody's praising Brighton now, but that was us 10 years ago. And it'd be interesting to see where Brighton are in 10 years and all of that. But Steve, is that still possible to do that? I mean, obviously, football's moved on. You know, players are a lot more expensive than they used to be. And it's a two-part question. So that's the first part. So I'll let you have a go with that one first of all.
I mean, yeah, I think that there are still hidden gems all over the world that you can find. I think that, you know, if the life of a footballer is very short-lived, and how many players have been told you're not good enough and you get released from academies and they come back up through the leagues a few years later in the Premier League? Prime example, Jamie Vardy being released by Sheffield Wednesday. You're not signing proven players half the time from these different clubs around the world. You're signing players that you can develop yourself. And if you get even like 2 out of 6 correct, 2 out of 7, you know, you can make your money back tenfold. So yeah, there are scouts everywhere around the world for sure, and these players are always being looked at. But I still think there are players you can bring in that will have a massive. Look at Jordan James, for example. Why wasn't he snapped up by a better club? You know, okay, going down from the Premier League, we were probably one of the favourites to go up. So it makes sense he joins us. But you know, you wouldn't tell me that after this season he wouldn't make it into a bottom Premier League side, because I think he would. He'd make that step up. So yeah, there are gems to be found all over the world.
All right, well, following on from that then, had we been doing that after we won the Premier League, you know, if we'd have won the Premier League and then gone out and bought Jamie Vardy, the majority of fans, I'll say the majority, would probably, like I say, have had pitchforks outside the KP, you know, well, Premier League champions and you're buying somebody from the Conference League, and who's this guy you're going to buy from the second tier of French football and what have you. It comes with, you know, like I say, do you think that we would have been able to do that having just won the Premier League?
I mean, at this point, it's irrelevant because
it is.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing. We spent money on. Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, Soleimani wasn't the first choice who we went for that season. We went for Troy Deeney and somebody else, and he ended up staying at Watford, and the other guy went somewhere else. So we signed Soleimani. We wasted a lot of money, and we have continuously wasted money, but also signed players that we made money for. So, you know, but right now, I don't think we can talk about signing these players when we're in the Premier League when we're potentially about to get relegated to League One. So
the question was following on from Craig, which was a good point about we need to get back to that. But that is the kind of time when we went away from it. Because
Yes,
when
you're saying let's get back to. You're saying basically you're saying there is well, we're going to win the Premier League again. Would you make this decision again?
Away from it. No, I'm just saying, had we, and it's not a hard question here, but had we, going back to when we won the Premier League, had we done that, how many fans would have been happy with us buying those players?
I don't know. In all honesty, I don't know. Leicester fans are so all over the place as it is. So I think, yeah, you probably would get some angry fans saying like, "Why the hell are we spending £1 million on a striker from the Conference League?" For sure, but you know, if you look at what we spent the money on, was it worth it? I wouldn't have thought so.
Thank you, Nigel Farage. Here we go.
Please don't ever compare me to Nigel Farage.
I could have said Keir Starmer. So let's not.
I'd rather be Keir than Farage. That's for sure.
All right, Kemi. Let's go through the lot of them. There are other political parties that are available, by the way. Right. Both Kevin and John will report to the club's board of directors, made up of Chairman Top, I'm not going to say it, and Vice Chairman Abishek and Lou Shalari, I can't say these damn names, who will continue to provide strategic oversight and long-term direction for the club. The appointments will now proceed through standard tests required under EFL legislation. So it's a 3-man board there, Kate, by the look of it. I thought it would have been a lot more. But, you know, John is reporting direct to Top, so probably no change there, and Kevin in as well. I mean, look, Top's in this position. He's not a position he thought he would be in. I still think, and I was talking to Rob Tanner a while ago, and he said, you know, KP are only just coming out of the COVID situation. You know, it's taken that long for them to sort of get back on a reasonably even keel, and they're only just starting to do it. So do you like the look of the structure and the way that it's been set out by Top?
I don't know. Like I've said before, I don't have a lot of input on the business structure of a football club.
Do you like the look of it? Do you think
it's different? It's change, and we wanted change, and that's what we've got, and that's all I can say, because I don't know. I'm not at all involved in business boards of football clubs, so it's a change, and that's what we wanted. So it's a change. It looks like the order of process might change a bit. There's going to be different people with different powers, which is good. It looks like it's going to be more segregated, and people have individual roles. I think it's kind of pointing towards the fact that John, which we probably all would have surmised quite comfortably, that going from a 4-man board and decision-making team, which included Bishai and Susan, to a 2-man team, meant that those 2 remaining would have had loads more responsibility and job roles. Now, John and Top, you could argue, can't probably cope with that additional responsibility because they are busy people. Top runs £1 billion business elsewhere abroad. So to actually segregate and give independent roles to different people and split it all out, I think is a good thing.
Fair point. Okay, let's have a look then, Craig, at Kevin. No, James. Sorry, James. I have put Rudkin's Lackey there because that is kind of what the feeling was on social media. Not saying that's what I believed, but that was what everybody was saying. Oh, he's still got to go through John Rudkin, blah, blah, blah. So let's see what's said about him. Further strengthening the football operation and reporting to the Chief Football Officer, James McCowan will join us as sporting director at the end of March. Arriving from City Football Group, where he currently serves as Global Director of Player Development, James will support and help shape the club's player recruitment and identify a strategy, working closely with Martin Glover, Head of Senior Player Recruitment. In close alignment with the technical coaching staff, James will lead the first team performance departments, including data, analysis and sports science, and oversee the professional development phase of the academy pathway to ensure cohesion across the football programme. Now, he is reporting to John, but like you say, you're not going to have somebody come from the likes of the City Group I love that cat. I absolutely love that cat. You're not going to have somebody coming behind his back again. Having somebody from the city going to come here and be a lackey to somebody, are they?
No, and I think what you've got there is somebody who fits the role of what we want in terms of what I said before. The City Group have two criteria for their player recruitment. One is, can they get in the first team and make a difference and make us a successful club? Two, are they a profit generator? Can we develop players to sell on? And you see how many of these players come through at Manchester City and the subsequent clubs that they own, who get a taste of first team football, but they have so many players that they can't achieve it. So they sell them on, and they sell them on for good money. You know, you look at some of the average play. I mean, James McAtee, I can't remember what ridiculous amount he went for. You know, there's a lot of these players, and that looks to me like they've said, right, this is where we want to get back to. This is what we want to replicate. What's the best way of doing it? Hang on. Can we nick the guy who's doing that for the whole of the City Group? You know, and I'm not saying it's just him, but there's a guy who's got a lot of experience of what we're trying to achieve. To me, that should be an appointment that people are excited about, not just saying he's going to be John Rudkin's lackey. You know, nobody's coming from that group and thinking, you know what, I'm going to give this up because I really want to be John Rudkin's lackey. He's seeing an opportunity, I would imagine, that he's going to be given a lot of power to oversee player development, player recruitment, making money for the club, and also making them successful on the pitch. I think it's an exciting appointment, and if he brings what Man City have done, great, good for us.
If you can get them off 115 charges, what can you do with our one or two? Everybody's been saying that. Yeah, Steve, look, we did a show on this about 2 or 3 weeks ago. One of the many we did while Kate, of course, was picking up penguins in Argentina. Does this excite you?
I mean, he's got connections, which is important. I also, on Craig, what you were saying there about, like, you know, players and stuff. He would have worked at the Man City group. He would have seen these players coming through, and some of these players won't make it. So if you can pick them up for cheap, they get released, you know, from their contract, or we can pick them up for cheap and we can develop them ourselves, then that's only going to benefit the football club. So, yeah, I think this is the one appointment you can't criticize. Oh, I don't know. So I thought Kate was doing that to me then, like, oh, you know, not this dickhead again. Jesus Christ. He's being positive for a change. Yeah, look, Leicester have got a massive catchment area around where we are. You know, okay, there's forest and whatever, but, you know, Manchester City isn't that far up the road. It's only a couple of hours. You know, London's only a couple of hours away. So we've got a massive catchment area for these young lads that we can potentially bring in and develop and sell on. So, yeah, I think you have to give him time. That's something you have to do. Maybe a couple of transfer windows, see who we're bringing in the summer, depending on what league we're in, because it'll be a completely different job in one league compared to the other, that's for sure. And yeah, I'm more positive for this one than moving John upstairs to the Holy Grail position.
Just looking at something you put it in the group earlier, Steve. This was coming from, I presume on X, Sven Place, which was translated from Dutch, so that's always a worry. The Brit James McCarran, 39, is the new sporting boss of Championship club Leicester. Last season, still working at second division side Lamel SK, and they're racking up a net loss of 20 million euros over 3.5 years. Football remains such a peculiar world, doesn't it? I mean, is that a worry?
Well, that was Steve of the past. I think sometimes you can ignore that, Steve. He's not always thinking. He was making bagels all afternoon, all right? So he was a bit distracted at the time. I'm
going to write that as the best excuse I have heard this year. This is going to number one. Bagels. I was making bagels at the time.
And they were very good bagels, actually, as well. Yeah, look, he was the director of football at Lamel at the time, from what I could see, but he's not. He doesn't have that role at Leicester. He will have to ask the question of the people above him. So, you know, Rudkin and Top and stuff. And we all know that it's not just one person making the decisions at the club now. Martin Glover, director of football, in John Rudkin, the manager, and also James McCarron will have a say of the players that get brought into the football club. And if they're too expensive, we don't bring them in. Look at the summer. We didn't spend any money because we couldn't. So if he's not got any money to spend because we're in League One, then great, free transfers. Don't worry about it just yet. If we ever get back to the Premier League and he's spending £75 million on Raheem Sterling at 36, then we can have a conversation.
Do you like it? Do you like a bit of a bagel, Kate?
I actually don't like bagels, but the fillings that Steve was putting in the bagels sounded beaut.
Yeah, you see, it's because he's in the centre of the country. If he was down near me, of course, there'd be seagulls. Bagel, see, no, never mind. Right.
Did you miss that, Kate, when you were away? Did you miss it?
No, I didn't at all. I got more out of a penguin.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to ask you the same thing, Kate. Does this excite you? I mean, yeah, he's got to know the situation when he comes in because it's all over the news. That guy popped up. I tried to get him on the show, that was talking, the ex-Sunderland guy. He's popped up again on another podcast this week. What does he really know? He knows, when you look at it, he knows what was happening when he was at Sunderland. And when I actually asked him about coming on, he said, I don't want to appear like I'm picking on one club. So maybe he actually doesn't know anything about Leicester and he's just saying it. But for us to get somebody of this ilk in the position we are, it's quite a scoop, isn't it?
I think so. And I think even from, before we appointed Gary Rowett, I always think Leicester is a really good project because they're an interesting club. Sometimes we're interesting for the wrong reasons, but we've also got a lot going for us interesting in the right reasons, in the sense that, to quote Enzo Maresca, they are the nicest people in football and they don't come along very often. So the opportunity to work for them, the opportunity to work at a training ground such as ours that you'll probably never see in your lifetime again, and just to be able to be part of a project that could rescue this hopefully sleeping giant is something that would excite me. And he's a young man. He's got plenty about him. He's got a lot of experience. And look, you just said there that he'll know about our predicament because he'll have read the press. And that's technically not right. He'll know about 10% of what goes on.
Yes, but he won't. What I'm saying is he won't be coming in with his eyes closed, will he?
No, he won't be coming in with his eyes closed. But he'll be used to pressure. That City group will have come with an abundance of pressure. The pressure to perform and the pressure to not get too many bad eggs, the pressure to promote, the pressure to recruit. It's all there. He's been part of a team that's been setting the blueprint for Manchester City and their group. So it's an exciting prospect. It's a really exciting prospect. But like anything, you never know how this is going to go. You never know how it's going to go. But you can just do your best, interview right, look at his CV, and see what he wants to do with the next part of his career. And it's great that he's chosen us because it is quite a coup, and we'll see what happens.
I'm going to go to, we've currently sat here with, ladies and gentlemen, with Kate, Craig, and post-Bagel Steve. I want to go to pre-Bagel Steve.
My rap name, that is.
I actually...
Post-Bagel.
Suppose it's not your porn name. I did this earlier for pre-Bagel Steve. I'm going to jump over to it, but I'll do it now. And I put there, if this guy wasn't so self-absorbed, he would cough now. But it's got a serious point to it because, Craig, this guy comes in, he's got this job, which he obviously loves, and I worked for Blackburn Rovers for 6 months. Wasn't a particularly brilliant job, but I actually enjoyed it. I got us free tickets to go and watch football. You're doing the job he obviously loves. When he started out, he was doing it for no wages. So I say, it's obviously, like I say, it's the thing that he loves doing. But how easy can it be to come along and every other week literally sit at your place of work and get everybody having a go at you, all right, forgetting the really horrible chants, which none of us condemn. It can't be, a nice thing for him, can it?
No, and I always think this, particularly when it gets really personal, that you know, I'm sure he's got kids who are at school or young kids or whatever, other people and family members who must get so much of it. You know, we kind of forget the fact that these are people as well, and they're, even if they're doing a crap job, they're not doing a crap job deliberately. You know, that they can be incompetent. You know, but to get the level of abuse that you're getting, you know, it would have been very easy for him to walk away. And you do wonder sometimes, looking at the payoffs that managers have got, you know, you would have thought it would have been quite easy for him to say, "Top, just bung us a couple of mil and I'll be on my way." You know. So you do wonder, and it is probably because he's been at the club for 30 odd years that he knows nothing else. It's in his blood, and you've got to think that he wants the club to be as successful as anybody else. You know, some decisions you would think maybe not, but you know, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because at the end of it, you know, to quote somebody called Kate, we don't really know. You know.
Didn't Kate used to be on Coronation Street?
Yeah. I don't really know.
Yes, exactly.
You know, he rarely, you know, I've never known him do an interview. You know,
I don't get that reference.
No, he's far too young, Steve. Far too young.
Well, she used to be Olive off the buses, but now she's moved on to.
You don't need to be calling me that anymore.
Was it Emily?
I was a Neighbours and Home and Away sort of, no, not Home and Away, I was just a Neighbours sort of guy. That was all I was. So.
You just think for Kylie. Sorry, Craig, do carry on.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, you know, I'm sure he's not making bad decisions on purpose. You know, he may be making ill-informed decisions or bad judgment decisions, but he's not deliberately trying to make, you know, the club lose money or do anything. You know, every football transfer at the end of the day is a gamble, isn't it? You know, we've seen it with enough great players going to clubs that don't work. It doesn't work. You know, players young, further down in their careers. I mean, the fact that Chelsea got rid of De Bruyne and Salah, you know, just shows you that it doesn't always work out. You know, you can get players in at the right time or under the wrong manager. I still think Slimani is a good player, but he wasn't the right player under the manager that we had at the time because he didn't play.
Harry Kane. We didn't want Harry Kane.
Yeah. You know, all of these things. You know, there's so many people, and I go back to an early point. At what point do you override the manager? If the manager comes to you and says, "I really want this player," you know, we should have done it at the start of the season when Cooper wanted Ayew. But you know, these players, you know, you bring in a manager and then you say, "Well, I'm bringing you in, but you can't have the players that you want." We would all suffer, I think, if we were in the same position of finding that fine line of towing the line of what the manager wants and what he's telling you. We need this player and we need him on a long contract. He's going to be Maresca. You know, Vestergaard's going to be the backbone of my team. We need him on a long-term contract. Make sure he doesn't go, "Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, I'm buggering off now."
We won't do the club cup in America because that'll earn us loads of money. I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so what do you do in these circumstances? It's tough. I don't necessarily feel sorry for the guy, but I think he's getting a harder time than he probably deserves. Sorry, Steve. I mentioned the word, didn't I? I apologise.
Vestergaard's going to be a centre back in League One next year. That's what I'm picturing. I can't wait for a lad from Bromley takes it past him and puts it.
Yeah, but you're sitting there in a boardroom with Maresca telling you that he's the centrepiece of our team. We need him. Okay, you tell Maresca that no, you're wrong. You're wrong, mate. You know.
You should have some backbone for sure. You should say.
Yeah, but this is it. This is what I'm saying. You know, it's very easy for all of us to do that, and we say, you know, no, I think, you know, Maresca, I think you're wrong. We're not going to do it. And yeah, you're right. I think, and in hindsight, we all would have done it. But he sat there across the table from him, and then the guy stabs us in the back. It's a tough position to be in.
Like give Luke Thomas a 4-year deal.
You back the manager, whoever it happens to be, with the players he wants. Brendan got back in. Enzo got back in. Steve Cooper got back in. You know, so you're not going to take a manager on and not back him, are you?
Did you see the interesting thing that Dewsbury Hall said in an interview about
Paying
about
Paul.
Rodgers. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I kind of did, but I think I've forgotten it. Do remind me.
Basically,
basically, he was coming through, wasn't he? Dewsbury Hall, and Brendan Rodgers was giving it the big I am when I think they were on it, whether they were on a training camp or somewhere. He was giving it the big I am. I'm really good at pool. Blah blah blah.
Oh,
and
yes.
Then Dewsbury Hall beats him 3-0 at pool, and the next day he's off to Luton on loan.
Yeah. Funny enough, I'm just redoing Ted Lasso, and I don't know if you've all watched that.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, that's the country version. Yeah,
that's the cultured version.
Didn't realise that Chris was related to Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yeah.
It's my mother. Don't knock her. Bless her.
I think it's Theodore Lasso anyway.
You know, his full name. But they did the same with the game of darts. Do you remember the game of darts they had in Series 1?
Yeah.
And he'd go like, if I want to know, I would ask somebody like, have they ever played darts? It gets to be classic. But anyway, I was going to share with everybody a picture of Kate there from a few years ago.
Don't really know, Derek.
Yeah.
It looks like you. That could be you.
Next time, Mavis, not Kate, Mavis, it needs to be saying there.
I've had more nicknames on this show.
Oh, you love Olive. Olive will never go.
I don't love Olive.
Yes, you do. Right, let's go back then. This is what was said. So let me just get this up. Leading our senior leadership team, Kevin and John bring more, and this was the pre-bagel. Steve wasn't happy about this either. Leading our senior leadership team, Kevin and John bring more than 45 years of combined organisational knowledge to their roles and a deep understanding of the club's culture and tradition. This is the bit that Steve loves. John marks 30 years with Leicester City in 2026, leading in positions such as Academy Director during the last 12 years as Director of Football. Kevin then becomes CEO after 15 years with the club, initially as Financial Controller and since May 2023 as Finance Director, where he has led the club's financial realignment during a challenging period of transition. Let's come straight to you, Steve. Your thoughts on that? In between bagels.
Look, I've the challenging period of transition was overspending by £116 per £100 you brought into the football club, the relegation to the Championship, the giving out massive wages to players that didn't deserve the massive wages. Look, you're a Premier League club. You're challenging for Europe. You're going to get these contracts out. That's what's going to happen. It's what come after that that's the issue. John, yes, he's been at the football club for 30 years. He's worn many different hats. He's probably cleaned the toilets at one point in his time here as well. Fair play to him if he does all that. But for me, yes, I find that you're admitting that he's director of football. He's been part of the club. But it's like when Top had the interview about and talking about John and he takes all the success for the Premier League and the FA Cup, but he doesn't take any of the criticism of what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. I don't still see any accountability from this football club in regards to what's happened. And look, people might disagree with me, and that's fine. But I actually think that within 2 years, John won't be here because nobody's here forever. Let's be honest. I think he's probably passing on the torch to somebody else to take over at this point. So, I would have preferred it if he wasn't at the football club. But I will just say that I won't be too negative because actually I've calmed down a lot and I don't want to rile myself up over John Rudkin again, which I've done for many, many a times.
Have you still got the shirt with his name on the back?
I do, and as long as I can run the marathon in May, I've got an injury at the moment, but as long as I can, I will probably be wearing the shirt. So that's fun.
I think we should get John on to give you a few words of,
I would rather not speak to John. Thank you very much. I don't think it will go very well.
Yes, I think you should ask him. Look, I didn't realise that there is actually a book out called "I'm a Bagel." There you go.
Why would you realise that?
You wouldn't, would
It's
you?
a bit odd if it's in your back catalogue or on your book.
Yeah.
Well,
I will say,
obviously,
if John was to donate to my marathon cause, he's paid less for shitter runners. That's for sure. We saw one on Saturday leaving the pit field after the game. So look, John, if you want to give me, I will run. I'm not very good at it, but I will do it.
Are you insinuating that at any point you ran?
That's a very good point. See, John, it's already an improvement. Give me the money, and I will run further.
Well, thing is with Ayu, we don't want him to come back. We just want him to carry on running, don't we? Right. Let's get back. Finally, we're just rounding it down now. Yep, not a problem, Kate. Right. So this is what this is the commercial and managing directors. We can also confirm the appointment of Russell Jones as commercial director, reporting to the CEO with responsibility for partnerships, retail, and I'm laughing because the first time I read that earlier, I thought it was parsnip. Sorry, I don't know why. It just tickled me that. Reporting to the CEO with responsibility for partnerships, retail, and venue commercial development, including ticketing and hospitality. Russell's experience includes spells. Sorry, it set me off. Spells in senior roles with Aston Villa and Wolverhampton Wanderers, where he successfully drove domestic and international revenue growth, adding value to commercial initiatives through effective. I'm sorry. Effective methods of planning.
Chris, I think you need moving upstairs.
I do. I'm sorry. I just reminded me of earlier. I can't stop giggling. The other lady will continue in her role as managing director. Is it Monica, the name we call her, maintaining oversight of commercial and operational matters to ensure continuity during this transition? Got through it. Hey, your thoughts on that, please? Help me out.
You have to snort my name.
He's done worse tonight. Let's be honest.
That is true. At least not call me Mavis. He's absolutely gone. Tell you what, Chris, I'll do some talking. Oh my God, he's snorting and everything. Aside from us,
like Daddy Pig.
I know he is. Aside from us talking about root vegetables, yeah, I mean, Russell Jones, he seems to have a decent pedigree, doesn't he? Villa have done really well. So his job is basically to drive the money, drive the growth, so that hopefully we make a bit more money and we don't and we don't go into the 116% territory again. And if we do have a wage bill that high, we've got to make sure the turnover is a damn sight higher. So that's a pretty good appointment. And by all accounts, Monica's doing a really good job. So I'm pleased that she's continuing as well.
Craig, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think we're just appointing more people who have proven themselves doing a good job at other clubs. The more people we can bring in, we've got to increase revenue. It can't just be fans. As we see, there's more empty seats than filled seats. So they've got to expand it. If they want to get back to where we were, but on a more sustainable footing, then you have to have these right people in the right jobs. And it can't be that we probably got to where the Holy Grail much quicker. Well, we never thought we would get there, let's face it.
No.
But we got there a lot quicker than we thought. I remember when Vishai bought the club and he was out in Thailand, I think, making a statement that we want to be in Europe within 5 years or God knows what. And you think, just shut up. Stop making, stupid comments about that we're going to do this, that, and the other. And we all know what happened. But to do that again, you've got to be more sustainable than we were. We weren't ready for that level of success. And we chased it, and now we're paying the price for it. If we're going to go that way again, we've got to do it on a more sustainable footing. And hopefully these appointments will give us that.
Round it off, Steve. I say you were the one that was on the march at the weekend. you say you can't do running, but you were well enough to go on that. So I think this is an excuse not to do the marathon myself. But give your thoughts on the whole thing, because obviously you have calmed down. You are post parsnip now, not post parsnip, post bagel now. Your feeling on the whole thing: is it too much, too little, too late? Did we have success too early, or is this the first step in the in getting back to the club that we knew?
Well, just on the new, can you just go back to the names, just because I don't want to mix them up, because there's been so many different people coming in and moving around today that it's very confusing. So I don't want to get them wrong. By all accounts, the new guy, Russell Jones, he's actually done a very good job at Wolves and Villa. By all accounts, we were talking about him in other WhatsApp groups, and he's done pretty well. So there was a tweet a couple of months back about what he'd apparently said about fans, but I don't know if that's true or not. But having spoken to people that have worked with him, he does a good job. My overall view is that, look, I haven't changed my opinion on King Power. I still would prefer a different ownership going forward, because for me, there's too much water under the bridge. But if you are looking to make changes and to bring the club potentially back together, these are the ones you have to make. So you've got to give them time. But I don't know how much longer if we get relegated to League One next year, it's a whole kettle of fish that we haven't even sort of touched on properly yet. So
on that note, that's another show. That's another full show relegation, isn't it? Thank you to everybody that's been in the chat today. Thank you to the Parsnips and the Bagels and Thelma, whatever she's called. Kate's got to get off because she's got to go and close the corner shop up with Rita. Steve's got bagels in the oven, and Craig, you're just probably going to go and have a beer, aren't you? Yeah,
probably. Who knows?
Thanks everybody for being in. Thanks to everybody that was in the chat. Remember to do all the normal things. Click the notification bell. Please like the video. Subscribe if you're new. And of course, if you're on your mobile phone, please do remember to hype as well. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 when we look at relegation. Talking of that, it is a show on two parts. The first part is tomorrow live at 12:30, but of course it will be available on catch up. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming. Cheers now.
Cheers all.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.